Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's your girl, the Brooke Ashley, and today we are here to discuss The Real Housewives of Beverly Hills, Season 11 Reunion Part 3. Y'all, what was that? Honestly, if Andy was going to just drag it out, I mean, we all knew it, but I was trying to have some hope that every single part would be interesting. But this third part missed the mark completely. When I tell you 20 minutes into it, I was like, are we done yet? Because I'm over it. I was so tempted to turn to something else because that's how boring this third part was. They could have kept this in the vault because absolutely not. So, with all that being said, let's just jump right on into it because we don't have a minute to spare. This third part starts off where we left off last week. Kyle and Kathy crying and hugging each other. They're talking about their relationship. Andy goes on to ask Kyle if she has any regrets for ever doing the show American Woman about their mom. And Kyle says no, she has no regrets. She didn't feel bad about it because she thought it was a love letter to their mom. She starts getting teary-eyed. And we all know the backstory about why Kathy was so upset about the show coming out. Because if you don't know, there's a lot of scandal and rumors surrounding their mom. Their mom was rumored to be a stage mom, very fame hungry, very money hungry, married 4 times. There were reports that she disliked one of her husband's mom so much, I guess it was her second mother-in-law, that she was feeding the mother-in-law dog food, allegedly. There are also a lot of rumors that she was forcing all of her daughters to marry very wealthy, and just a lot of craziness surrounding their mom. So I think that that's one of the main reasons why Kathy had a major issue with the show coming out in the first place, because she was worried about what was going to be in there, because their mom was rumored to be a very nasty and pretty much a maniacal mom. So I just feel like that's the reason why there's just so much secrecy and anger anytime it comes up about their mom being brought up in the public sphere. So now Andy wants to know who picked up the phone to call who to reconcile. Kathy says it was probably me. Kyle laughs and says it was all their children who brought them back together because their kids are incredibly close and they were getting tired of doing things separately and not seeing each other for the holidays. So they're the ones who got Kathy and Kyle back on the right track again. Honestly, I feel like all the sisters need to go into some therapy because there's still a lot of unhealed trauma. There's a lot of baggage there. I don't think that they have resolved any of their issues. They're just putting a band-aid on things and hoping that everything is okay. Then Andy goes on to ask if the 4 of them are cool, meaning Mauricio, Rick Hilton, Kyle, and Kathy. Kyle says that they're all good. They hang out sometimes. And the way Kyle said it, I'm not fully convinced that Rick and Kathy are all good, because that whole rift between Mauricio and Rick Hilton is just a hot mess in the first place. I don't know. I'm just not totally convinced, like I keep saying, that everybody is all good. So now Andy wants to know if Kyle has Kim's current phone number, and Kyle says yes, and that her and Kim are all good. Kyle and Kim will be falling out soon enough because those two have been at odds since season 1. Now we move on to Crystal, and let me say this had to be the most Crystal has spoken this entire reunion. Andy goes on to ask Crystal about how she used to work at an escort agency, and Crystal says, yes, I did, and it was when it was like the summer before she went off to college. So then Erika makes a joke about how she thought that was really cool that Crystal did that and how she found it to be very free-spirited. So now Andy brings up the whole ugly leather pants debacle. All the ladies are going around like, I thought the pants were cute. Kyle says that she thinks she owns the same leather pants. And then Sutton says, look, the pants weren't my favorite, okay? But I'm sure that I wear lots of things that people don't like. I said, Sutton, you could say that again because I know your clothes are very expensive. They're all haute couture, but child, Those dresses on you? No. Sutton dresses very conservatively and also very dowdy. I don't know. I just feel like Sutton's style could be a lot better. And then when she had the kitten heels on in one of the episodes, I was like, my goodness. So now Andy reads off a viewer question regarding the whole coat debacle between Sutton and Crystal. Remember how earlier in the season when they went on that trip, Sutton was trying to bring Crystal her coat back, and she knocked on the door and then just went in the room, and Crystal was naked because she was about to get dressed. So Crystal's like, look, it was just a lot of things that compounded together. Me and Sutton had gotten into the argument because Sutton was saying that she didn't see color, she didn't want to talk about race, and then how she was acting after Kathy's drinking game at the restaurant. If those things hadn't have happened, then I feel like it would have just blown over. So now Sutton says, let me just say something. I just felt like you saying that it was a violation and you felt violated was a very strong word, and I just couldn't let that go. Then Sutton says, you saying that I was violating you inferred that I was trying to harm you, and that wasn't the case. Andy brings up if Crystal feeling violated has something to do with her body issues. And we all know that Crystal has suffered with eating disorders. And so she says, absolutely. So now Andy reads a viewer question to Crystal about why did Crystal get upset at Sutton for saying, I don't see color, but didn't get upset when Kathy Hilton was saying how she didn't see color when they were in La Quinta. So Crystal says, well, those were two totally different conversations and the tone was different. And yeah, that's very true because Sutton seemed very ignorant when she said that. She wasn't even open to hearing any other perspective when Crystal was trying to bring up race and the issues that minorities face in this country. Then Andy brings up Sutton's Instagram apology. And I'm not going to lie to you guys, I felt like Sutton got off a little bit too easy with this one. I was really hoping that Andy would hold her feet to the fire. I was actually expecting Garcelle to say, you know, Sutton, like, when you said that, what was going through your head? Like, I don't know. I just felt like that was a missed opportunity for Sutton to be educated. And I understand that, you know, she made that apology on Instagram, but I felt like it wasn't enough. I'm not going to hold you. Sutton really showed her behind this first half of the season. Now Andy brings up how Crystal was being harassed with hate speech and threats and how she had to deactivate from her social media because she was getting like hundreds of threats a day. Crystal's teary-eyed and she says how she joined the show because she wanted to show her kids what a great example this would be. And then she also wanted to show Asian representation. And so, you know, she's crying and she's like, yeah, guys, I didn't tell you, but I was getting harassed. I was getting all these messages, like hundreds of messages a day. And she's really upset. Andy's upset too. And he says, you know, don't let a small percentage of assholes deter you or make you feel bad. And then Sutton jumps in to apologize to Crystal for any part that she played in the ignorance and for people attacking Crystal. So now Andy moves on to the ladies' fashions of this season, and we see the whole montage play out of some of the ladies' best looks. So Andy brings up Lisa Rinna and how she has hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of vintage dresses in her garage, and now he texted her when that episode came on, and he was like, Rinna, you need to move that stuff out of your garage because I do not want you to get robbed. So Rinna says, yes, I know. And they're no longer at my house. They're in a storage place and they're safe and sound. So now Andy wants to know who Garcelle thinks is the best dressed in this cast. And Garcelle says Dorit. Now Andy wants to know, does Dorit buy all of her pieces? Does she borrow the clothes? Does she get a discount? And she says, nope, I buy all these pieces myself, full price. And then she says that she dresses for herself and she puts a lot of care and detail into her outfits. I said, girl, now the word on the street is that Louis Vuitton banned you because you're sitting up there buying all their pieces and then reselling them on Poshmark and eBay. And I said, why are you paying retail knowing good and well that you and PK's money is all the way messed up, and y'all are being sued right now as we speak for $1.3 million. Child, I know that American Express is maxed out.
If you know you're not fab, stop coming out like, bitch, like you that girl. You not fab like that to be doing all of that. Learn your place, earn your spot.
Then Andy gets on the topic asking, I guess, what are the most over-the-top gifts the ladies have received? Kyle says it was the diamond earrings that Mauricio gave to Andy to present to her while she was on Watch What Happens Live, but they were stolen because remember that Kyle's house was robbed a few years ago too. So then Andy wants to know the most extravagant gift that Kathy has received from Rick. And Kathy says, well, we no longer exchange over-the-top gifts anymore. I'll get him a sweater for his birthday and for our anniversary. And then he bought me, I think, a sterling silver seashell because he collects shells. And so she said, yeah, that's like the most over-the-top gift that she's gotten in like recent years. And now we move on to the most interesting part of this reunion, which is the Erika Jayne portion and all of her lies. So Andy starts it off by asking, Erika, you said that you're going to be keeping a score of who was for you and who was against you. Who was against you? She says, I don't know, ask them. So now Kyle interjects and she's like, Erika, I see on the blogs that you're angry at me and don't want to speak to me, but just understand that we were in a tough spot too, and we all felt like if you had explained things better to us, then we would have better understood. I said, girl, please, you had all season long to tell Erika to her face that you were confused and you didn't do it because you're a coward. You spent this whole entire season trying to cover your tracks and look like friend of the year to Erika, all while throwing Sutton under the bus instead of being upfront. Erika's super dry and she says, watching that scene with the four of you and Mauricio, and Dorit and PK, that really broke my heart because you guys were mocking my life and that just really hurt. So Kyle's getting upset because God forbid anybody talks about her and Mauricio, and she's like, Erika, we were not making fun of you at all. Mauricio and PK have their own minds. They're like super close. They're like brothers, okay? Like I can't control what comes out of either of their mouths. And also, Mauricio believes you. I said, girl, you know you a bold-faced lie. Mauricio and PK made it clear at that table that they didn't believe a word that was coming out of Erika's mouth. And you know that you don't believe Erika either. Just own it. I don't understand why you guys are so pressed to have Erika's friendship so badly. Just tell her the truth. Girl, I don't believe this. I think you're lying. It is what it is. Like, I just don't get it. So now Dorit interjects and she's like, Erika, hand to God. We were not making a mockery of your situation, okay? It's just that the story kept coming out more and more jumbled. That's the reason why it looked like we were making fun of you, but we weren't. So now Garcelle jumps in and says, Erika, now do you understand why we were kind of afraid and why we thought we could be implicated in this mess too? So Erika starts raising her voice and she's like, no, absolutely not. I can't understand that because this is BS. And if anybody ever tried to drag you guys into it or implicate you, then you just know that it's BS. So no, I can't understand why you guys would feel scared or some type of way. I said, Erika, that's a lie. That's human nature. Anybody would be afraid that they could possibly be tied into this mess. It's not out of the realm of possibility, especially since y'all are all on this show together. Erika is just being obtuse at this point. She just does not want to see anybody else's side. Now Sutton interjects and Erika's like, love, you could have picked up the phone and called me if you had any questions. So Sutton says, Erika, that's not true because you ran away when we had questions. Like the day before the LA Times article came out, you ran away. Then Erika says that she didn't get a heads up about the LA Times article, and the reason why she left La Quinta early is because of the argument that she had gotten into with Garcelle. Now, Erika, that's a lie, because there was, I want to say it was when you guys were at Del Mar, Erika had to admit that she had gotten the article the day before it dropped. So you're caught in another lie. This is just a real shame that Erika would sign on for this season and to go on this reunion because she is implicating herself. So now Kathy chimes in and she's asking Andy like, well, I don't understand because I know on the other Housewives franchises, there have been lawsuits and big cases like this before. So like, what's the problem? So Andy's like, well, no, this is a lot different because the other Housewives were scamming the IRS, okay? This case, there are actual victims, like plane crash victims, orphans, widows, burn victims. Like, this is a completely different level, hence why the viewers are angry and they feel like Erika is just being very callous and cold about what's going on. So now Erika fixes her lips to say, understood, but understand this, we're still a long way from finding out what really happened. I said, Erika, are we really playing this game? We're not going to sit up here and allow you to play in all of our faces. It's just not going to happen. There is nothing alleged about what Tom did. Okay? This really happened. There are thousands of people who did not receive settlement money that was rightfully theirs. Like, who is Erika trying to fool? Then she adds that she really loved her husband and how the F do you think she feels? Okay, she's hurt. So I was like, again, sis, what does loving your husband have to do with what he did? Erika would have benefited greatly from shutting the entire F up because she sounded like a true jackass. Like, I was just really floored at how she could have no self-awareness. So all the ladies jump in and say, Erika, we have never heard you say that you feel horrible about this. Like, those words have never come out of your mouth. So now Andy jumps in and he's like, girl, I have to admit, you've been coming off like you're the victim all season long. So now Erika gets defensive and says, I've never acted like I'm the victim. I'm not the victim. But then she proceeded to act like she was the victim by saying, my life has been turned upside down. I said, there you go. There you go. Making it all about you. There is no sympathy for Miss Erika Jayne. You're still laying your head down in a $10,000 a month home in West Hollywood with a brand new Range Rover in your driveway. I'd hardly call that turned upside down. Andy keeps reiterating that Erika's antics this season have not been landing with the viewers. So Erika's trying to defend herself and says, look, I have limited ways to express myself because anything that I do is going to be picked apart. Then she goes on to say how she chose to say as much as she possibly could, but that might have effed her over in the long run. Girl, it's not about messing you over. It's about you lying. That's what's going to send you to jail. Then Kyle jumps in and says, Erika, I just have to say it, but your Instagram is a really bad look. And Garcelle also agrees. She's like, girl, you need to tone it down. Like, that's not a good look at all. It just looks really bad. And then Andy says, your Instagram reeks of consumption, and that's the wrong message that you want to send out, especially when victims have not received their settlement money. Like, what kind of message are you sending? For Erika not to understand or grasp that her Instagram looking the way it does sends out a certain image and a certain message to people. The fact that she can't see that, I'm suspecting, is she a narcissist? Is she a sociopath? Because it's just crazy to me. There are thousands of people who did not receive their money. They're now living hand to mouth, pillar to post, and here you are still posting, going on trips with friends, having the time of your life. You look crazy. If you were truly smart, you would deactivate your Instagram. And you know it's sad when ass-kissing Rinna even said, yeah, Erika, like, I understand, but your Instagram is a bad look. Like, I would tone it down. And when Erika rolled her eyes, I said, that's how you know Erika does not want friends. She wants a whole bunch of yes men around her telling her what she wants to hear. And Rinna tried to say it as delicately as she could. So now Andy goes on to ask the $64 million question, and that is, what did Erika know? Erika says, all the files are down at Girardi Keys. That's the name of Tom's law firm. And that's all I have to say about that. So Andy's like, so you obviously didn't know anything then. So then Erika says, yes, that's the answer. Again, I'm not convinced, because if you didn't know anything, you would have just said, I don't know anything. But to play all these little mind games and talking about, all the files are at Girardi Keys, girl, just answer the damn question. Did you know anything, yes or no? Now Andy goes on to ask the other ladies if they feel like Erika knew anything. Garcelle says, I feel like Erika was living such an amazing life that she didn't want to know. And I think that there's definitely some truth in that as well. So now Crystal jumps in and she's like, I just cannot imagine, like, if Rob did this to me. And then she goes on to ask Erika, where is your anger towards Tom? Now, Crystal, while you did not add much this entire season or this reunion, that was a very good question, because I too want to know, where is her anger towards Tom? I feel like Erika has been mad at everybody else except Tom. She's cursing out Sutton. She's mad at Garcelle, mad at Kyle and Dorit, but she's not mad at the main person who stole and swindled millions of dollars from innocent people and now has her on here looking crazy. Erika's upset and she's like, really? Like, I'm very angry. Did you forget me saying that I'm angry at Tom? Then Erika says, you don't know what I've done and you don't know what I will do. So Andy's like, well, what are you going to do? I was here for how shady Andy was when he started questioning Erika. Andy wants to know if she had heard rumblings that there were financial issues regarding her and Tom. So then Erika says, no, I didn't hear anything, like, no. So then Andy brings up when he had asked her at, I think it was the season 10 reunion with Denise Richards, or no, season 9 reunion, because that's when Denise Richards came on Beverly Hills. So anyhow, you guys remember how Tom was being sued for $15 million. He had defaulted on a loan, and Andy had brought up that lawsuit at that reunion. Now, Erika says, I asked him about it, and I said, why am I in this? Like, what is this? And he told me it was all BS and to not worry about it. So now she turns to Crystal and says, am I angry enough for you? And that's where the part 3 reunion ends. Let me tell you something. I am going to rejoice when this is finally finished. I'm tired of Beverly Hills. I have fatigue. This season has really worn me thin. The antics of Erika, Rinna, Kyle, and Dorit, I'm just over it. Like, I'm over them. I want Beverly Hills to be recast. Or if they're going to keep some of these clowns, then bring back LVP and Denise and Kim Richards to shake things up. The way Erika just sat up there and just lied. I said, this woman has no shame whatsoever. The contradictions. It's unreal. And still trying to make herself out to be the victim in this whole thing when she is not a victim at all. It was just so disgusting to watch. But guys, when I tell you I cannot wait for this last part, I'm tired of Beverly Hills. I don't want to see them till 2023, okay? But y'all, that was the episode. I hope you guys enjoyed my recap. And as always, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And I will see you all later. Bye.